The notification popped up on my phone while I was eating lunch. It was a Thursday, the kind of gray November day that makes the city feel smaller, the walls closer. I had been looking forward to a quiet hour with my sandwich and a book, a small pocket of peace in a week that had been relentless with deadlines and meetings. I was halfway through a chapter when my phone buzzed with an insistent chime, and I glanced at the screen to see a photo from my cousin Megan. I tapped the notification and the image expanded. It was an invitation graphic, elegant and professionally designed, with the words Family Reunion 2024 in looping script, the dates highlighted in gold, and underneath, in bold letters that seemed to pulse with their own importance. Location: the beach house, Outer Banks. My beach house. The one I had bought 6 years ago after saving every dollar from a decade of working 80-hour weeks, sometimes 90, sometimes more. The one I had renovated myself, room by room, learning plumbing from YouTube videos at 2 in the morning when I couldn't sleep, teaching myself electrical work from books borrowed from the library because I refused to go into debt for contractors. The one that had become my sanctuary, the place I went to escape the noise of the city and the quiet weight of being the family member no one bothered to ask. I stared at the image for a long moment, the sandwich forgotten in my hand. I read the text again, scanning for my name, for any indication that I had been consulted. There was nothing. The invitation listed my sister Laura as the organizer, with a contact email that was hers. The dates were 3 weeks out. 47 people. For days. And I had not been asked, not been informed, not even been given the courtesy of a heads up. My sister had simply decided that my house was the family gathering place and had sent out invitations as if she owned it. I set down my sandwich and called her. My hands were steady, but my heart was beating faster than it should have been. She answered on the third ring, her voice bright and distracted, the way she always sounded when she was juggling too many things at once. Hey, little brother. What's up? Did you plan a family reunion at my house? A pause. Then a laugh, light and dismissive. The laugh she had been using on me since we were children. Oh, that. Yeah, I've been meaning to talk to you about it. It's been so hard to find a place that can accommodate everyone. And your place is perfect. Huge deck, right on the water, plenty of bedrooms. It's for the family, Alex. You don't mind, do you? I took a breath, steadying myself. Laura, you didn't ask me. I'm asking now. You're not asking. You're telling me after you've already invited 47 people. Megan posted the invitation online. I saw it before I heard anything from you. Her voice tightened, just a fraction. Okay, so I should have mentioned it earlier. But you know how busy I've been with work and the kids. It slipped my mind. Anyway, it's just a weekend. We'll clean up after. Mom's been wanting us all to get together for years. You're always so busy. This is a way to finally make it happen. I thought about the years she had made decisions for me, about me, without me. The time she had told our parents I would drive her to college because he doesn't have anything else to do. The time she had volunteered my apartment for a cousin's engagement party without a word, showing up with 50 people while I was still in my pajamas. The time she had announced at a family dinner that I would be paying for our mother's surgery because he's the one with the good job. I had gone along with all of it, swallowing my objections, telling myself it was easier to keep the peace, that this was what family did. But this was different. This was my house. The one place I had built for myself, the one place that was entirely mine. I had poured years of my life into it. Not just money but sweat and time, and the kind of love that comes from creating something with your own hands. Every room held a memory of late nights with a hammer or a paintbrush, of learning to fix things I had never fixed before, of the satisfaction of watching something broken become whole again. Laura, you can't use my house without asking. It's not a community property. It's mine. I pay the mortgage, the taxes, the insurance. I decide who stays there and when. Her voice hardened, the brightness replaced by something sharper. So what? You're going to say no? To your own family? Mom and Dad are looking forward to this. The cousins are flying in from across the country. You want to be the one who ruins it. I'm not ruining anything. You are. You planned an event at someone else's property without their permission. That's on you. Oh my God, you're being so dramatic. It's a house. It's not like we're going to damage it. We'll be careful. We'll leave it better than we found it. I knew that promise. She had made it before, about the car she borrowed and returned with a dent in the door that she never mentioned. About the apartment she used for a party that left stains on the carpet and a broken window she said was already cracked. About the vacation rental she had insisted I book for the family, and then left me to pay for the damages because you're the one with the credit card. No. No. Her voice rose, incredulous. What do you mean, no? I mean, no. You are not having a reunion at my house. I didn't agree to it, and I'm not agreeing to it. Mom is going to be so disappointed. Dad, too. You know how much they've been looking forward to seeing everyone together. They talk about it every time I call. They've been telling their friends. It's all they've been talking about for months. Then they can have it at your house, or at Mom's, or rent a venue. There are plenty of options that don't involve using my property without my consent. She was quiet for a moment. I could hear her breathing, the calculation happening behind her silence. Laura had never been good at hearing the word no, because no one had ever really said it to her. Our parents had always given her what she wanted. I had always given her what she wanted. The idea that I might not was something she was struggling to process. Alex, you're being unreasonable. Everyone's already made plans. They've booked flights, taken time off work. The cousins from California are coming. Aunt Helen is coming, and she's 83. You can't just pull the rug out from under them. You should have asked me before you invited them. I didn't think you'd mind. That's the problem. You never think. You never ask. You just assume that I'll go along with whatever you want, because I always have. Her voice cracked, the first sign of genuine emotion breaking through the performance. I didn't mean to upset you. I just thought, it's such a beautiful place, and everyone would love to see it. I thought you'd be proud to host. I thought you'd want to. I leaned back in my chair, looking out the window at the city below. You thought I'd want 47 people in my house for 4 days without being asked. I thought you'd want to be part of the family. The words hit harder than she probably intended. Part of the family. As if I hadn't spent my whole life being part of the family. The part that was expected to give, to accommodate, to disappear. The part that was seen only when something was needed. I've been part of the family my whole life, Laura. I've been the one who showed up when you needed money, when Mom needed help, when Dad was sick. I've been the one who said yes to everything, who never complained, who made it easy for all of you to take. And this is what I get in return. You planning a reunion at my house, without even a phone call. She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you felt that way. You never did. I ended the call. I sat at my kitchen table, the city noise filtering through the windows, and I let the anger settle. It was familiar, this feeling, the slow burn of being overlooked, the frustration of being treated as an extension of someone else's convenience. I had spent my whole life being the easy one, the accommodating one, the one who didn't make waves. I had let Laura make decisions for me because it was easier than arguing. I had let my parents' expectations shape my choices because I didn't want to disappoint them. But this was my house. This was the one thing I had built for myself, the one place I had claimed as mine. And I was done letting anyone take it for granted. The next morning, I drove to the beach house. It was a 4-hour trip, the kind I had made dozens of times, the route so familiar I could navigate it without thought. I left the city before dawn, watching the sky shift from black to gray to a pale, watery blue as I crossed the bridge onto the Outer Banks. The house sat on a stretch of sand that was quiet in the off-season, the ocean gray and restless, the sky low with clouds that promised rain but never delivered. I parked in the gravel drive and sat for a moment, letting the silence settle around me. I had bought this house 6 years ago, at a time in my life when everything else felt uncertain. I had been working at a tech startup that was failing, living in a cramped apartment with a roommate I barely spoke to, watching my savings dwindle as I tried to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. The house was a foreclosure, a fixer-upper that had been on the market for months because no one wanted to take on the work. I had walked through it on a cold February afternoon, the windows rattling in the wind, the floors uneven, the kitchen a disaster of outdated appliances and water damage. And I had fallen in love. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The house smelled like it always did, salt air and wood polish, the faint trace of the candles I burned when I was here alone. I walked through the rooms, checking each one, inventorying the things that were mine. The leather couch I had found at an estate sale, the one that was worn in exactly the right places. The kitchen table I had refinished myself, sanding away decades of varnish to reveal the oak beneath. The photographs on the walls, images of places I had traveled, moments I had captured, a life I was building one piece at a time. The house was modest by beach standards, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a great room that opened onto a deck overlooking the water. It was not a showpiece. It was a home, and Laura had planned to fill it with 47 people who would have trampled through every room, eaten every meal, used every towel, slept in every bed. They would have arrived with coolers and suitcases and expectations, and they would have treated my sanctuary as their vacation rental. I walked to the deck and looked out at the water. The waves were steady, the gulls calling overhead, the world quiet in a way it never was in the city. I thought about the years I had spent being the one who said yes. The years of holidays I had hosted because Laura was too busy, of money I had lent that never came back, of time I had given up because my family needed me. I had told myself it was the right thing to do. I had told myself that family was more important than money, than time, than the life I was trying to build. But somewhere along the way, I had stopped building my life. I had started building theirs. I pulled out my phone and called a security company I had used once before when a neighbor's party had gotten out of hand and I needed someone to keep the noise down. They were efficient, professional, and they understood the assignment. I explained the situation. A family member had planned an event at my property without permission. I expected uninvited guests to arrive in 3 weeks. I wanted the property secured, cameras, alarms, a physical presence if necessary. The woman on the phone listened without judgment, the way professionals do when they've heard stranger things. We can have a team there the day before the event. We'll monitor the property, turn away anyone who doesn't have your authorization. What about the door code? I'll change it today. The old one will be deactivated. We'll make sure anyone who approaches the property knows they're not welcome. I hung up and went inside. I pulled up the security system app on my phone and navigated to the door code settings. The old code was Laura's birthday. She had insisted on it years ago, saying it was easier for everyone to remember, that it was just a number. I had gone along with it, because that was what I did. Now I deleted it and entered a random string of numbers that only I would know. I sat on the deck and watched the waves. I thought about my mother, who had always said I was too sensitive when I complained about Laura's demands. I thought about my father, who had taught me that keeping the peace was more important than being right, that family loyalty meant never saying no. I thought about Laura, who had learned from both of them that my boundaries were negotiable, that my things were hers to use, that my life was an extension of hers. I loved them, in the complicated way you love people who have hurt you. But love was not the same as permission. Love was not the same as being used. The weeks before the reunion were quiet. Laura didn't call again. I heard through the family grapevine that she was furious, that she had told everyone the reunion was still on, that I would come around. My mother left a voicemail, her voice strained, asking if I could maybe just let them use the house for the weekend, for the sake of family harmony. I didn't respond. My father sent a text, short and to the point. Your mother is very upset. Please reconsider. I read it and put my phone away. I thought about the years I had compromised. The time I had given up a promotion because my parents needed help with medical bills and Laura couldn't afford to contribute. The time I had paid for her children's school supplies because it's just a few $100s, you can afford it. The time I had driven 6 hours to pick her up when her car broke down, only to find her waiting at a coffee shop with a friend, complaining about how long I had taken. I had done all of it without complaint, because I believed that was what family did. But family was not supposed to be a one-way street. Family was not supposed to be a ledger where one person gave and the other took. Family was supposed to be a place where you were seen, where you mattered, where your boundaries were respected. I had spent my whole life waiting to be seen. And now, finally, I was seeing myself. The day before the reunion, I drove to the beach house. The sky was clear, the ocean calm, the air cool with the first hint of autumn. I arrived in the late afternoon, just as the sun was beginning its long descent toward the horizon. The security team was already there, 2 men in plain clothes, a van parked discreetly down the road, cameras installed at the gates and along the perimeter. I walked through the house one more time, checking doors and windows, making sure everything was secure. The alarm system was armed. The door code was changed. The house was mine. I sat on the deck as the sun set, a glass of wine in my hand, the ocean stretching out before me. I thought about the 47 people who would arrive tomorrow, expecting to walk into my home as if it were theirs. I thought about my sister, who had never once considered that I might say no. I thought about my mother, who would be crying at the gate. I thought about my father, who would be embarrassed and angry, caught between his children, unsure whose side to take. I thought about myself. The quiet one, the easy one, the one who had never said no. Tomorrow, I would say it, and the world would not end. They arrived at 10 a.m. the next morning. I had been awake since dawn, watching the light change over the water, drinking coffee on the deck, waiting. I heard the cars before I saw them. The low rumble of engines, the crunch of tires on gravel, the sound of doors opening and closing, voices rising in the morning air. I walked to the upstairs window and looked down at the gate. My cousin Megan was the first to get out, her face expectant, her phone already in her hand. She walked to the keypad and typed in the code she had been given, Laura's birthday, the same code that had been in use for years. The gate didn't move. She typed it again, slower this time, and when it still didn't work, she frowned and pulled out her phone. I watched the security team approach her. I couldn't hear what they said, but I saw her face shift from confusion to disbelief to anger. She gestured at the house, at the cars beginning to line up behind her. The security guard shook his head. He pointed to a laminated sign that had been posted on the gate the night before, private property. No unauthorized entry. More cars arrived. My aunt and uncle, cousins I hadn't seen in years, my mother and father in their sedan. I saw Laura's car pull up, a black SUV that was newer than anything she could afford on her own. She got out and marched toward the gate, her face already flushed with anger. She was on her phone, her voice rising, and I could see her scanning the windows of the house, looking for me. My phone rang. Laura. I answered. What the hell is this? Her voice was shaking, whether with rage or something else I couldn't tell. Why is there security at your house? Why won't they let us in? Because I didn't invite you. Alex, there are 47 people standing in the road. Mom is crying. Dad is about to have a heart attack. You need to tell them to let us in. I looked out the window at the crowd gathering at the gate. I saw my mother, her hand pressed to her mouth, her shoulders shaking. My father, his arm around her, his face tight with the effort of holding himself together. My sister, pacing back and forth, her phone pressed to her ear, her free hand gesturing wildly. I don't need to do anything. You planned a reunion at my house without my permission. You invited 47 people without asking me. You assumed I would just go along with it, like I always do. But I'm not going along with it. This is insane. You're going to tear the family apart over a weekend. I'm not tearing anything apart. You are. You made a decision that wasn't yours to make, and now you're facing the consequences. She was quiet for a moment. I could hear voices in the background, the murmur of confused relatives, my mother's anxious questions, someone's child crying. The weight of 47 people was pressing against the gate, and Laura was caught in the middle of it. What am I supposed to tell them? Her voice cracked. We have nowhere else to go. Everyone flew in for this. Aunt Helen is here. She's 83. You want to make an 83-year-old woman stand on the side of the road. That's not my problem. You're really going to leave us all standing here? Your own family. I looked out at the crowd. I saw my cousin Megan, her phone now pressed to her ear, probably calling other relatives to tell them what was happening. I saw my Aunt Carol, her arms crossed, her face a mask of disapproval. I saw my Uncle Mark, shaking his head, already turning back to his car. And I saw my mother, her face buried in my father's shoulder, her whole body shaking. I felt something twist inside me. Not guilt. I had done nothing wrong. Not anger. I had let that go days ago. Something else. Something that might have been grief for the family I had never really had, for the relationships that were crumbling under the weight of a single boundary. I'm going to give you one option, I said. You can apologize. Not for the reunion, but for every time you made a decision for me without asking. For every time you treated my life as an extension of yours. For every time you assumed I would just go along with it because I always have. Alex, that's the only way anyone steps foot on my property. I hung up. I sat on the deck, looking at the ocean, and I waited. The security team kept the gate closed. I saw Laura's car pull away, then stop. I saw her get out again, walk to the gate, talk to the security guard. I saw him shake his head. I saw her turn and look up at the house, and for a moment I thought she might see me in the window. But the glass was tinted, and I was hidden. Cars began to turn around, one by one. My Uncle Mark was the first, his sedan backing out of the line, his face set. Then my Aunt Carol, her car following. Then the cousins, the friends, the distant relatives who had come for a reunion that was not going to happen. The line of cars thinned, the voices faded, and by noon, the road was empty. I sat on the deck for a long time, the silence settling around me like a blanket. The waves rolled in, the gulls called overhead, and the world was quiet. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt something else, a hollow, aching relief, the way you feel after a wound has been cleaned. It hurts, but it's clean. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. I hope you're happy. I didn't respond. The weeks after the reunion were quiet. The family retreated into their own corners, licking their wounds, assigning blame. I heard through the grapevine that Laura had spent the weekend fielding calls from angry relatives, that my parents were mortified, that I had become the villain in the family story. The son who locked his family out. The brother who chose his property over his blood. The selfish one, the cold one, the one who didn't understand what family meant. I let them talk. I didn't defend myself. I didn't explain. I had spent my whole life explaining, justifying, making myself small so they could be comfortable. I was done. I threw myself into my work. I was a software architect, the kind of job that rewarded clarity and punished ambiguity. At work, I was respected. At work, people asked for my opinion and listened when I gave it. At work, I mattered. I buried myself in code and deadlines and meetings, filling the hours with tasks that made sense, that had clear beginnings and endings, that didn't leave me wondering if I had done the right thing. But at night, in my apartment, the silence was heavy. I thought about my mother's face at the gate, the confusion and hurt. I thought about my father, who had always taught me that family was everything, that you didn't say no to family, that you gave and gave until there was nothing left. I thought about Laura, who had never learned to hear the word no because no one had ever said it to her. I had said it, and it had cost me everything. I started going to therapy. A woman named Dr. Park, who had an office in a converted brownstone and a way of asking questions that made me uncomfortable in exactly the right way. She listened to my story without judgment, and when I finished, she said, "It sounds like you've been carrying a lot for a very long time. I don't know how to stop. You've already started." She leaned forward. Setting a boundary with your family wasn't about punishing them. It was about protecting yourself. That's not selfish. That's survival. Then why does it feel like I've lost them? Because you have. At least, the version of them you were hoping for. The version that would see you, that would respect your boundaries, that would love you without conditions. That version never existed. What you've lost is the hope that it might. I thought about her words for days. She was right. I had been carrying the hope that one day my family would see me, would value me, would treat me as something more than a resource. And when I finally stopped pretending that hope was real, it felt like a death. But it was also a release. 6 weeks after the reunion, my father called. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Alex." His voice was rough, tired. "I need to talk to you." "I'm listening." "Your mother is not well. The stress of everything. She's been having heart palpitations. The doctor says it's anxiety, but she's not sleeping, not eating. She's worried about the family. About you." I closed my eyes. "I'm sorry she's not well. She wants to see you. She wants to fix things." "What things?" A pause. "The reunion. The way things ended. The way we've been for a long time. Dad, she planned an event at my house without asking. She invited 47 people without a word to me. And when I said no, she called me selfish. She told me I was tearing the family apart. I know. And now she wants to fix things? She wants her son back." I was quiet for a moment. I thought about the years I had given them, the parts of myself I had set aside. I thought about the house I had built, the life I had made, the boundaries I had finally drawn. "I'll come," I said, "but I'm not coming to apologize. I wouldn't ask you to." I drove to my parents' house on a Saturday afternoon. It was the same house I had grown up in, the same street, the same front porch where I had sat as a child, waiting for someone to see me. My father opened the door before I could knock. He looked older, thinner, the lines in his face deeper than I remembered. He stepped aside and let me in without a word. "She's in the living room," he said. I walked inside. The house smelled like my mother's cooking, the same spices she had used my whole life, the same pot roast simmering on the stove. The furniture was the same, the photographs on the walls the same living room where I had spent countless holidays feeling like a guest in my own family. She was sitting on the couch, a blanket over her legs, a cup of tea untouched beside her. She looked up when I entered, and her eyes filled with tears. Alex. Her voice was small. Thank you for coming. I sat across from her. You wanted to talk. She nodded, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. I've been thinking a lot about what happened. About the reunion. About the way we've treated you. I waited. Laura was wrong to plan that without asking you. I knew it at the time, but I didn't say anything. I didn't want to upset her. I didn't want to make waves. She looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something in her eyes that I hadn't seen before, guilt. I've always done that. I've always chosen the path of least resistance. And you've always been the one who paid for it. I didn't respond. I let her talk. You were always the easy one. The one who didn't complain, who didn't demand, who just went along with whatever we needed. And I told myself that was just who you were. I told myself you didn't need as much, that you were happy to help. But that wasn't true. You were just waiting for us to see you. She was crying now, the tears falling freely. I see you now. I see what we did to you. The years of taking, the years of assuming, the years of making you small so we could be comfortable. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I sat in the silence, letting her words settle. They were not enough. They could never be enough to undo the years of invisibility, the decades of being the one who didn't matter. But they were something. I'm not going to pretend that everything is fine, I said. I'm not going to show up at family gatherings and act like nothing happened. I need you to understand that. She nodded. I understand. And I need you to tell Laura. Not for me. For yourself. For the family you say you want to keep together. I will. I stayed for dinner. We talked about small things, my work, her garden, my father's latest project. The conversation was careful, tentative, the way you speak when you are learning a new language. But it was a start. When I left, my father walked me to the car. He stood in the driveway, his hands in his pockets, the evening light softening the lines of his face. You did the right thing, he said. At the reunion. I should have said it then. Why didn't you? Because I was scared. I was scared of losing your mother, of losing Laura, of losing the family I thought I was holding together. But I lost you instead. He looked at me, and his eyes were wet. I'm sorry. I nodded. I know. I drove home through the dark, the city lights flickering in the distance. I thought about the house on the beach, waiting for me. I thought about the family I had lost, and the family I was beginning to rebuild. I thought about the door code, the simple act of changing a few numbers, and how it had changed everything. I had spent my whole life letting people in. I had given them the code to my house, to my time, to my life. And they had taken without asking, without thinking, without seeing. I had let them, because I believed that was what love meant. But love was not the same as permission. Love was not the same as being used. Love was not the same as making yourself invisible so others could be seen. I had learned to say no. And in that no, I had found myself. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more dramatic tales of boundaries, family, and finding your worth.